Dify's social purpose is to gain competitive advantages for businesses using social media marketing tactics that include Facebook advertising to try and attract and retain more customers. To explain the details, we're joined by Steve Hubbard from Dify Social, joins us here at the desk. How are you doing?
They are.
So what is Dify?
Well, Dify, I think you guys gave it a very nice summary. So look, we work with predominantly micro to small, or really micro businesses, family type businesses, to really just get the most out of social media marketing. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for small business, but it's often very confusing landscape.
Absolutely.
In terms of what they should be
and
using.
There's a generational issue here as well, where we are all told you've got to be on Facebook, you've got to be on LinkedIn, you've got to be on Instagram, you've got to have your Twitter going, you've got to have your YouTube page up, and you go into each of these ecosystems and you've got to focus on each of them. You don't get to focus a little bit on all of them. So it's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, well, look, you hit the nail on the head, particularly if you're, and absolutely in terms of my target audience and the people I'm working with, they're typically sort of my age, maybe 10 years younger, so you're sort of 45 plus business person. And realistically, where social media has come in has been really necessarily part of their success to date. And so where they go, and as you said, there's the 6 main social media sites, and we just treat them as assets. We just suggest to them, look, really, you got to treat the, Google My Business, Google owns YouTube. You mentioned Facebook, Facebook owns Instagram, Twitter. Not too many people understand Twitter other than Q&A on a Monday night.
Many people are on there either in Australia.
That's right. And then LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a fabulous vehicle as well. So those 6 channels is around really creating that asset for your business in the first instance, but then actually being able to apply it in a way that you can either, well, in most cases, educate your target audience, target communities.
The other issue as well that they will find, that you will find too, is that things change very fast in these worlds. Sometimes video works well on LinkedIn, the next it's an article that they will be boosting when it comes to these. And you guys would have to be at the forefront of knowing where things are going. I mean, look at Google. The key thing we keep hearing from people who advertise on Google is that the analytics change, the algorithm keeps changing, and so it's very, very hard to keep up. How do you guys keep up?
Yeah, well, I think that's a fantastic point. Realistically, as I mentioned, there's 6 main socials. So the thing about those 6 main socials is they just keep getting better, is what I would say. So the reality is it's not so much about keeping up. It's just, you do need to make sure that you have the basics right in the first instance. But as you said, application really, so you mentioned video and photo. The main thing to really remember on social media particularly, it's all about real people, real places. As soon as you plug graphics over things and all that sort of stuff, particularly with your just marketing posts and educative type posts, people think, oh, they're trying to sell me something. We don't like to be sold stuff on social media.
It is funny, isn't it? I was thinking about back in the 1990s when you would watch television and everything was over the top in terms of graphics. Everything was 3D and throwing at your face. And now things are a lot more 2D, a lot more not in your face, a lot more, we know you're being overwhelmed by choice. We want to just give you a clear example of who we are.
Oh, look, exactly right. And I think we just don't like to be sold to. That's the first thing. So a lot of it is about exposure. So exposure to the business, exposure to the brand. You hear different things at different times. I think they used to say 7 exposures. I've heard 21 now. So realistically, through the different social media, and then clearly, ultimately, we're talking about communications here. So where it fits with other exposures. So there's still print media. There's still opportunities to go out and business network. So the reality is, it works best. Radio advertising potentially for certain businesses. How do you then integrate your social media into you mentioned SEO, online, Google Ads? They all need to integrate. And there isn't really one magic bullet.
No.
But what you want to do is make sure that the bullets that you're using them in the best way you possibly can.
Which I guess is where you guys come in. So let's imagine that I, as a company owner, walk into your office and say, I need help. What happens from there?
Yeah, well, the first thing we do is an audit. We do a sort of bit of a health check of your socials.
So you look at engagement, you look at growth, you look at what they're doing in terms of posting.
Oh, look, I think you've got to take a step back in terms of realistically, 50% of small businesses aren't even on it. And those ones that are on it maybe have a Facebook page. And over those ones that have a Facebook page have perhaps never advertised. So you start to be talking about potentially 15% of small business have ever had a crack in any chance. And then you actually have the other extreme, where they're actually spending too much time and too much money either internally or externally, and they're bleeding, like they're hemorrhaging. And literally, it's almost, we do a gaps and opportunities, and we sort of look at where they're at, and then we look at where we can improve and where we need to sort of make the differences in those 6 social media channels.
How much did you find your business changing into a content management company, given that I could imagine that when you start to look at these companies, the ones that do have social channels, or the ones that don't, their key question is, well, what do I put on there that will get engagement?
Well, look, and we've got a model that we've used for 5 or 6 years, and basically it's to think website first. So realistically, any imagery, any gallery, any blogging, any unique service, everything that you do is all about putting it on the website first. Your website is a searchable vehicle with all your keywords and all the unique you. We repurpose that information, that content, through to your socials so that we can do it more than one time, realistically. Your social media, and that's probably one of the main biggest mistakes that businesses make, is they create the content, it's here today, gone tomorrow.
Well,
yes, they can advertise
because they see it as native. We're all told that you've got to post natively. You can't post a link from your website on your Facebook page because Facebook doesn't like that. You've got to post the video natively on Facebook.
And I think that's where there's probably a lot of mixed, there's a whole lot of stuff that Facebook doesn't like, right, from an organic perspective. Like in Australia, we're still pretty fortunate, 10%, for most businesses, 10% of your following will get to see your messaging. But let's face it, as soon as you put $1 on it, whether there's a link in it or not, you get exponential reach and engagement. So realistically,
what we've been told about Facebook is that it's now completely oversubscribed. That organic reach doesn't get you very far at all anymore. It's down in the low percentages, and they're all just trying to get you to boost.
Yeah, well, I think it's all perspective, isn't it? Like, so we've got a couple of examples where that's not necessarily the case. If you've got 100,000 strong following, then clearly you're going to get 10 to 20% of that following seeing your posts on a regular basis. It's still pretty good. Even if you've got 500...
not for micro business, very unlikely.
For micro businesses, though, remember, let's say for an argument's sake, you're a mortgage broker, and let's say you've got 250 following your Facebook page. If you're posting on a daily basis and 10% are seeing it, then pretty much they're going to see it at least once a fortnight, something along those lines. So it's all about sort of constant visibility and credibility. At the end of the day, yes, you're going to advertise to the new people that don't know you from Adam. So that's the difference. So the way we sort of think of it and the way we explain it to our clients is your daily posts, they're about educating the people that already know of you. It could be support network. It's not just your target audience that you want to sell to. But then the advertised posts are the ones that live in your region, that are in the market to buy whatever it is that you're selling or looking to offer them. And so it's the advertising that really gets those new acquisitions.
The way I like to describe it in our business is every day you've got to go for a jog and do some exercise, but once a week you've got to do a marathon. And you've got to kind of keep the posts up every day, but once a week you've got to do something that try and attracts more people.
Yeah, well, really with the advertising, often we'll be advertising, a bit like Harvey Norman. You think about it, they don't change their ad every second day, right? For a month they've got a campaign and a particular offer or whatever the case is. Well, we apply that same approach to our businesses. What is it that really makes you unique? What's going to help you beat the person down the road? And and what's really going to attract them into your business to actually make that inquiry. Realistically, that's the bottom line, is what's the inquiry look like? Is it to the front door of the business? Is it to the website? Is it to the phone? And let's face it, a lot of businesses, we're lazy, so if you don't put the phone number on the post, well, there's a good chance they're not going to phone you, because you want to, if you're inherently wanting to get them to the website and then they have to phone you, realistically put the information on the posts so that they can take the quickest action possible. So if you've sparked their interest by that little bit of post, sure, if they want to get more information and they need to get that from the website, then bring them back there.
Call to action.
Yeah, the call to action on posts is really important. So
I suppose we think back, let's go right back to the old-fashioned way of a business advertising, something called the yellow pages. Which I refuse to have anything to do with, because any time I've ever done it, I just end up with a million fake phone calls of people wanting money. Because they think you're a successful business and they want something from you. But the stats show that the average age of an entrepreneur startup in Australia is 52-year-old man. Would you believe? That's the average age. Not a 21-year-old, but a 52-year-old. There you go, that's right. And so that's why I guess the technology concern, it might be fine for Facebook. A lot of people are on Facebook over 50s these days, but what about the rest? And LinkedIn has kind of had a coming of age recently, where for about 10 years it was that annoying thing, you keep getting emails that someone's added you and you had no idea what to utilize it for. But now it really has a pretty strong community that can help you with hiring, can help you with seeing what the trends are, and can help you to become a guru in your business.
Yeah, there's probably two real key things in what you've just said there. Firstly, particularly a lot of small businesses, whilst they may be the face of their business, we're about business social media marketing. It's not about promoting and self-promotion.
Yeah.
So, and you do see a lot of self-promoters, particularly on LinkedIn. What we do is
those people who sit with their car videos and tell you something that they
just
think
watch
is
the road.
Really
I don't know why. I don't know how that really does give me the irrits.
I wonder what the road toll is for people making videos for LinkedIn.
Well, I don't know what the why that gives you more authority either. Why is it?
I own a car.
That's right, exactly. No, it's bizarre. But anyway, the other second point is so really it's about business. It's still about business promotion, and there's certain things you can do to leverage your business in your own promotion. You just like your own business's post in amongst liking your personal connect posts and other things, so that basically you'll go in the feed. The second thing is the strength of LinkedIn is the direct messaging and contact side of things. So that's still the most powerful. If you can direct and personal message, then clearly that's a powerful form of marketing, right? So if I can go, "Hi Aaron, nice to be on the show today, fantastic, let's stay in touch."
Yeah.
Great. The other thing is, I think it's 4 million on LinkedIn, and I don't know how many people check their feed, but I think it's around 10 to 20%. So 4 million, 10 to 20% checking their feed every so often. Facebook, 17 million, checking their feed a lot, right? And yes, there's other things, the new things coming through, and people will often say, "Oh, but some of the young kids are dropping out." They'll be back. They'll have kids. They'll have families. They'll be back. Oh, that's my sense, right?
I don't really use Facebook much anymore because it became so political that I unfollowed so many people that I ended up with basically 3 people that I see their same content every day, and I go, "I'm not learning anything from this." Let's talk about your business though, because you're actually looking at franchising the model.
I am, yeah. No, it's an exciting time for me. So going through a business called Franchise Simply up in Queensland. Brian and Prue Keane have been involved in that for 20 years. They've probably done franchising for 30. So yeah,
how do you franchise a business like yours?
Yeah, well, realistically, how do you franchise any business? It's about creating that second business. Firstly, recognise that up to date, effectively, I've created a successful franchisee consultancy, realistically. So then it's about systemising the processes so that when my pilot, for instance, at the moment, I've got Caitlin out there in Greater West of Melbourne, realistically then, sure, there's still a lot of onboarding and training is involved, and selecting the right people is critical, but a lot of it is about just having systems in place. Look, we've got a particular model as to how we do this. No different to how a bookkeeping franchise business or a printing franchise business would be. This is the Dify Social way. This is how we apply that, where we do the audit and consult. This is how we do the planning and setup, and this is how we do the management. And
why do you need to franchise though? I don't understand. Why can't you run it yourself? Is it because you need that local face-to-face contact? Why do you need to franchise? When I think of franchisees, Jim's Mowing or McDonald's, for example, they need to have restaurants and capital for that, which is why they went down the franchising path. Why do you need to? Yeah,
I think that's an excellent question. And look, the proof will be in the pudding in probably 3 or 4 years' time, so I'd love to talk to you about that at that stage. The reality is at the moment, as I mentioned, the person that's acting as if they were a franchise in the first instance, at the moment is just following a process, right? So, you can have corporate multi-outlet, but the franchising model is such that realistically it's a way of, I'm hoping it can create a legacy realistically where people can run their own business. And you mentioned, and Jim's Mowing, that sort of Jim's type model, where really, I think his saying is let the mowers mow.
Yeah.
Social media marketing, it is a great, for young marketers coming through, right? There is a great opportunity here because the want is huge, right? The need is great. In fact, a lecturer once said there's a gap in the market, but is there a market in the gap? And 5 or 6 years ago, I would have almost said to you, look, I'm not sure. It's hard work, right? But small business need help. And there's a lot of marketers going through the system.
There's a lot of medium-sized businesses that don't really know what they're doing in that regard either, and cannot afford the tools that the teams that large businesses have.
Yeah, and look, and that's a fantastic point. Often, and particularly you talk about franchise business, they'll grab a marketer that's gone through the various university and they've all had brand marketing sort of experience. Now, what small businesses call marketing is marketing communications, right? Most small businesses just think of communications when they think of marketing. what marketers think of marketing is what most small businesses just think of business, right? Have you got your pricing right? Have you got your distribution right? You know, what competitive analysis do we need to look at? So it's kind of interesting, but there is just a great opportunity to get back to your original question, I believe, for emerging marketers to really get into this space. And I believe franchising is a good model for that. And sure, I'm not a pool works. You know, the cost of entry in my space is about IP and how you apply a particular model that's worked and how can you just replicate that over and over. So it'll be an interesting journey. I'm hoping
Look
it's
forward
a
to hearing
successful one.
about it. Yeah. Congratulations, Steve. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Aaron.